My mom invoiced me and my sister for the expenses of raising us, by user Wayne and Grillevance. Our household always revolved around money, even though my mom made more than enough money and we were not struggling by any means. She complained about every single thing she had to buy for us. Everything. Food, clothes, medical expenses, toys, laptops, and phones, school costs, everything. We always knew exactly how much we were costing her. We didn't dare ask for unnecessary things like leisure activities or expensive toys or hobby supplies. We started working very young and she manipulated and guilted us to give her all the money we earned to pay off what we owed. When I turned 18 she completely cut me off financially, but kindly offered to let me rent my bedroom out from her, and sent me an invoice of every cent I've ever cost her, totaling over $700,000. She billed me for Christmas and birthday presents. She even billed me for her medical expenses for the pregnancy and delivery, and wanted me to back pay rent to live in the house from birth. She did the same to my sister 2 years later when she turned 18. We were supposed to pay her back over time starting the day we turned 18. Both of us were still dealing with a lot of internalized guilt from her constant manipulation, so we actually did pay for a while. Aside from necessary expenses, our entire paychecks were going to her. We rented our bedrooms in her house and she separated her food, cleaning supplies, cookware, and tableware, etc. from ours and charged us to use them. She generously included the use of the household appliances in our rent. It wasn't until I was 21 and my sister was 19 that enough people had told us this whole arrangement was unhinged that we finally snapped out of it. We moved out together and have stopped paying our mom, or even contacting her at all. Mother lets kid crawl over our table and ruin our date, by user long lost Neverland. So me and my boyfriend went out for the day. We went for a nice long walk, had ice cream, and then decided we would go to the nice pub around the corner for some lunch. We got there and it was busy, loads of kids there, so we got a table around a corner as it was empty. We ordered our food and all of a sudden some random kid came around the corner, came over to us, started trying to climb on me, which I told him no, then he started crawling under our table and all over our feet. I was like, what the hell, expecting someone to collect him, which they didn't. I just kept seeing some random woman keep peering around the corner. Anyway, our food came and this kid got a chair, pulled it to our table and started trying to put his creepy hands on our plates to grab at our food and crying when I told him no. He then started shaking the table, knocking my drink over, so I got annoyed and asked the bar who the parents was. Turned out it was the woman who had kept looking around the corner, so she knew he was bothering us, so I went over, told her to get him and said he was ruining our food and she needs to buy him some because he's hungry, and she said I was a selfish bitch for not giving a child food. Loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. Her child, how is that my responsibility? Anyway, she came and got him, muttered something under her breath and walked away, only for the little whore to return seconds later trying to climb on us again. I had enough and said I wanted to leave and just go home, and as we was leaving the kid's mother waved to us and said bye, see you soon, skull WTFLMAO. We're a young childless couple trying to enjoy our child-free life. I really don't need someone else's kid ruining my day. What's point taking him out if she doesn't want to look after him? My ex was upset when he found out that I have Mexican ancestry because that means our son is now mixed. He feels he's entitled to have children whose blood isn't tainted. We're both Native American. By user Fluffy_freebread07734. So this happened about 3 years ago. It was my, now late, paternal grandmother's 98th birthday, and there was a whole article written about her in a newsletter. Only when I read this newsletter is when I found out her biological father was from Mexico. Her mother was Native American. I'm always excited to learn of my roots. So during a phone call with my, now, ex-husband, I told him what I found out. He was not happy about it at all. The reason is because in his eyes, his son's native blood is tainted. I remember him telling me a story about how he broke up with his last girlfriend because he found out she was mixed with Caucasian. It sounded so ridiculous, I never took it seriously. I honestly thought he was joking. I feel dumb because no one should joke like that. It wasn't until he found out about my son's Mexican ancestry that I realized he was in fact serious. My ex has German ancestry, but you could never tell he was mixed with anything just by looking at him. I, myself, have Irish and Scottish ancestry, but it goes pretty far back, so you can't tell just by looking at me either. I just thought I'd share this. Leaving a 2 and 4-year-old with random woman, me, and her toddler, by user Nidin4 house elves. So this just happened and I'm so pissed. So this week has been rough. My toddler is going through some rebellious phase, my husband was away all week with our car, and my Mill who babysits for us is on a vacation. In a WFH mom, and there were some emergencies at work. Let's just say I'm exhausted. So today I took my daughter outside for a long walk with the stroller and decided to grab a lunch at a local food court. As I get our things, she's being really fussy, but I managed to calm her down. A dad with 2 small kids sits next to us and places his kids on high chairs, almost barstool height. Not children's high chairs but regular adult ones without straps or even a back. He strikes up a short conversation with me as our daughters are similar ages, and then when I'm trying to feed my kid I hear him say, "So, guys, you look after each other and the bags, the nice lady is here, I'll go grab a coffee." And before I say anything he's gone. I was surprised, very surprised, but alright, I can understand a fellow parent being tired and needing a coffee. I bet he'll be back in a minute, right? Nope. 15 minutes later my meal is untouched as I try to keep my toddler sitting while persuading 2 kids I've never seen before to not jump down from their bar stools. The older one was nice and wanted to chat, but also tried to jump down and go look for his father multiple times. The younger one is just a toddler herself and is afraid of the height, so every time I turn around to my daughter, she goes to jump down on the hard floor. I'm losing it. This is not what I need today. Another 15 minutes later, so half an hour in total, the dad comes back with a Starbucks cup. The Starbucks is not even in the food court, it's on the other end of the mall. He goes, "Sorry guys, there was a queue." And doesn't even look at me. I feel myself ready to say something nasty. So I just grab my completely cold food, wave bye-bye to the kids and leave with my daughter. WTF? Who does that? What would he do if I just up and left? If my child started screaming and I just had to leave? The place was crowded, he'd never find his kids, who were nice enough to tell me they were 2 and 4 yo. I feel like a gullible idiot for just caring for that idiot's kids, but I couldn't live with myself if something happened to them. None of that was their fault. Thank you so much for reading my rant. My daughter just fell asleep and I needed to get this out. EDA, thank you to all the nice comments, you're awesome. And to the I would have taken them to police/security/moved tables. I get your point, but have you ever tried to move through a crowd with just one fussy toddler? Imagine 3 in a stroller, that takes at least double the hands that I had, lol. Babies bring out the worst in your friends, by usermost_example_7028. Just venting. Saw this post from an old friend. I can't add a photo, so here's a copy of the text. It was an Instagram story, full text. All caps. I just waited 1.5 hours. With my infant because infants can't go through global entry. If just one person gave up their spot in line for registration we could have signed him up and walked through, but not one single person was willing to let us in. So we waited 1.5 hours for customs with an infant. After a 22-hour trip. I never know what to say in these situations. I err on saying nothing to avoid confrontation. Why would you expect people to give up their spot in line for your infant? No one made you take your infant on a global trip, and why should they be sympathetic that you have to wait in customs for re-entry just like everyone else? Ugh. The entitlement on so many levels. Babies keep bringing out the worst in people I know.